What's going on, Cowboys faithful, everybody, DMV fanatics? How are y'all doing out there? Let's get that algorithm popping, man. Make sure you like. Make sure you like, man. Let's get this thing popping. Before we start anything, I just want to let everybody know before we get on, before we start anything tonight, we are 157 subs away from 5,000. So, those that know me, those that have paid attention to my channel over, the last couple of months and stuff like that, 5,000 is a huge milestone to me. Because at this point last year, I was just really getting back active because I had kind of fell off from YouTube for a while, and I decided that I wanted to really build this thing, and I really appreciate everybody that has stopped by. What's going on, Eric Wallace? What's going on? I love weed, man. I guess we could all use that on this Friday, right? So tonight we're going to discuss a lot of things, right? Because the draft just happened. I was in Vegas for the draft, so I was able to meet up with a lot of people out there. Man, it was a blast. Probably one of the better weekends that I've ever had. So if you guys want to check out some of the footage, and you haven't, go ahead and do so. I've also done quite a few breakdowns since then, quite a few reactions. So yeah, I mean, things are going on pretty well right now for us Cowboy fans, man. And so what we're going to do tonight is I'm going to have two people on, and we're going to discuss the analytics of why the Cowboys actually had a pretty solid draft. But before we do that, we're actually going to go through each pick. And what I want people to do is I want you to put your grade of the draft pick in the comment section. And we'll discuss, but I'm going to really go over each player, and I'm going to have a panel of guys that's going to be here as well. So nothing's really hit as far as news is gone. You know what I'm saying? Like any crazy news. Uh, I think that Dallas really wanted to get through draft season, but there is some crazy things. Jerry got in an accident. Something minor, but it's Jerry Jones. You know what I'm saying? Like he got in an accident and it was front page news. I saw something right before I got on that RG3 is interested in being the Dallas Cowboy, and I don't know how much legs that has to run with, but RG3 wanting to be a Cowboy, I'm not necessarily against that. I'm okay with getting a look at RG3. You know, um, and if he could beat out Cooper Rush, he could beat out Cooper Rush. If not, what I'm saying, we gave it a fair try, a fair shot. I don't think that adds any more negative cameras in that locker room than there already is. So, it is what it is. In other news, Micah Parsons and Dez Bryant were going back and forth on Twitter yesterday. Apparently, Micah Parsons beat the hell out of Dez Bryant in the Madden game. So I'm sitting here telling you guys about things like that, like Micah Parsons and Dez playing Madden. So it's been relatively quiet on the Dallas front. But you know, after we talk this draft stuff, maybe we'll have a little bit of time to talk some free agency. But my guy Dale just popped on now. So we got my guy DT from Hemp for Pros. What's going on, Dale? How you
What
doing?
What's up, brother? How are you?
Pretty good, man. How do you feel about the draft before we jump into it?
um, I feel better about it today than I did on draft day.
Yeah,
Especially with the first round. Because I think there was. I mean, it's obvious there was players there. When Stephen Jones said there was not a must, we all know bullshit. You need a guard. You do not have a left guard, right?
yeah,
and, and so they did that. I don't watch film. I don't watch tape. I rely on guys like you and Foots and Vach and Jet. That's what I
yeah,
watch. And so I know there was not. Smith definitely wasn't high on anybody's list. I think some of the information that has come out after makes me feel like it's not. Was it a reach at 24? Yeah, I think it was a reach at 24. Okay. But was he going to be there at 56? No, he
yeah,
wasn't.
exactly. And
You know,
sometimes that's how you have to draft. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes,
you have
if
a block. right?
Yeah, yeah.
Your block is between 24 and 56,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And 56 and 88. So it's like it really doesn't matter if you're taking them with 56 or 87. That's your block.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so a lot of people that do mock drafts and stuff like that, they don't really understand that portion of it. You know what I mean? Like that he might not have been there at 56. And there was somebody out there that did some crazy FBI work where they just somehow, deciphered Jerry's sheet from the
Yeah.
from the 1 second he held it up
Yeah, I saw
and
that.
showed the list, and he did definitely have Tyler Smith above those guys. But I think we talked about this where they had him more position flex over the guys that were still left on the board, like Linderbaum.
Right.
We talked about Linderbaum
Right.
back and forth, and Linderbaum doesn't have the position flex. He just has the center position. You know what I'm saying? So,
well, I know from past drafts what the Cowboys do when they build their board, right?
okay.
They will, because we've seen it. This is the third year that we've actually seen their board, right? So they will do that where they're ranking all the players, regardless of position, from first to whatever, right? But then they go through and they'll rank the guards. And then they'll rank the tackles and the wide receivers and all of that. And they do that. So this is the fourth best wide receiver, seventh best guard, right? And so they do that. And so I 100% believe, based upon the document, and the picture and the FBI work, that they had. So for whatever, they did have Smith, ranked higher than guards that I personally think were better guards.
Yeah.
What we didn't see, is their ranking. If they're going to rank Smith as a guard, bullshit. If they have them ranked, if they had him ranked as their top guard.
Okay, gotcha.
They may have had him ranked in order of preference, like as their, as a overall player, and with position flex, moved him up into that 16th spot, right? But there's no way that they had him higher than Zion as a guard, right?
Yeah, facts.
Yeah,
he was already gone. He was already gone. But I feel you.
Right.
And as we're talking about it, I got my guy Professor O.
What's up, guys?
What's up,
Professor
man?
O is in, and I got my guy Dale here, and these are my special guests today. We're gonna chop it up a little bit, and we kind of talked about it a little bit because what I wanted to do was kind of break it down pick by pick, and we already started kind of talking Tyler Smith a little bit. Hey Dale, if you can kind of move over a little bit, so
I'm gonna move the camera. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Did it lose? Did it drop? Of course.
Yeah, it dropped a little bit. You probably got to hit that button. Well, how you doing today, Professor O?
I'm good. It was a nice Friday. Excited. I have a lot of stuff coming up. My wife's birthday is next week on Tuesday, so I have Mother's Day, wife's birthday, and a bunch of stuff work-wise coming up next week. So it's a busy time of year, obviously, but it's good. Yeah, everything's good.
Yeah. So, question that I have is: are your feet back to normal now? Like, are your feet still swollen? Because mine took a couple of days.
My calves hurt for like literally 3 or 4 days afterwards. I don't know how long we walked, but it was probably like 20 miles or something. Like we walked everywhere. And it was weird because it's flat. Like it wasn't really like an incline or decline. So I don't really know what it was. But yeah, like I guess all the walking and standing on it. So yeah, my feet feel good. Calves feel better now. So I'm good.
Yeah, man. So like a lot of people don't know, we actually met for the first time at the draft, and we actually had a blast. We were at the NFL experience and everything. So,
right.
There's pictures of us and everything. So yeah, it was pretty cool. A lot of people were like, "Oh, I bet Professor O is 5'8". He's actually taller than me, guys."
I know. I don't know. Everyone thinks I'm like 5'6", like 110 pounds, but I'm like a decent sized normal human being. So
yeah. So while Dale is trying to get things back, we're going to jump into each pick or whatever. He kind of talked about Tyler Smith a little bit. Tyler Smith, pick number 24. How do you feel about it now? I know what your reaction was, but now that you've had time to digest, like where are you with Tyler Smith and what he can bring to the Cowboys?
I mean, I'll be honest, I still don't like the pick. It's one of those things, like, I understand why they did that. I actually started talking about it probably like 3 weeks before the draft, saying I'm wondering if a guy who can play tackle might be higher on their priority list than what fans are thinking, because everyone's thinking we need a guard. And obviously he's going to play guard, but Stephen Jones wasted no time at all saying we think he can slide out to left tackle. Then he started talking about Tyron's health issues and contracts and stuff like that. So he's kind of putting the writing out there for you. The timetable of him being a guard probably is not going to be longer than 2 or 3 years. So I get it. I've watched the film. I understand what people like about him. He has that like nasty brawler mentality, feisty, kind of tone setter on the offensive line, which I like, but he had 16 penalties last year. And I watched 3 games that he had probably 5 or 6 penalties, or what should have been penalty calls, that went uncalled. If you watch the Houston game alone in the second half, I think I counted 6 in the second half there. So like penalties is a big issue for him.
Yeah.
Now there are things that coaches can do, like helping him with his punch, getting his hands and pad level at the right spot, helping with his feet work, and sliding inside will help, but it's not a cure-all. There are things in terms of habits that he's going to have to be coached out of. He's a young guy, especially when you're talking about a 21-year-old. The potential is definitely there. The talent is definitely there, but I don't love the pick, honestly.
Yeah, so I was going to ask you that, because for me, I think that a lot of the penalties had a lot to do with the fact that I didn't think he was very great. I don't think he was very great at kick sliding, to be honest with you. I think that he's kind of slow with the reaction. As far as a future tackle goes, if this is what they were thinking, they probably should have gone Slater last year. Even though I love Micah Parsons, don't get me wrong. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if this is like, if you were talking about getting your future tackle, maybe they should have moved up. But I mean, okay, Dale is back now.
There you go. What's up, Dale? Yeah. Welcome back.
What's up? Sorry, I switched the tablet because the camera died.
Nah, it's okay. So we were talking about Tyler Smith and, whether or not, Professor O was able to kind of bring up, his penalties last year that had a lot to do with, why he doesn't really love the pick, but he understands it. How do you feel about the penalties and
I think you have to look at why he got the penalties, right? So I think most people that talk about not liking the pick because of the penalties is because we have a bad taste in Connor Williams last year in our mouth, right? Connor Williams got his ass kicked. And so it wasn't that he wasn't technically sound. He was physically weak. And so he resulted to the holding because he got his ass kicked. I don't see Tyler getting his ass kicked. After 4 years, you're not getting Connor Williams any stronger. Like, he is what he is, right? But I think we can fix technique with Tyler, or that's the hopes, right? So I watched all of the holding calls last year, and a lot of them were, there's at least 6 of them where he's literally just pancaking the guy, driving him into the ground. He had the block one, and it wasn't really necessary. The other holding calls were, a lot of times I saw him, like, his hands were either way low, right, to start. At tackle, he didn't time his punch correctly.
Yeah, he was just talking about that.
Trouble, so it was like he was either being uber aggressive or really poor technique, right? And I think putting him at guard, you kind of put him in that phone booth, so he's not going to have to take that jab step, and then reach, and maybe mistime it from lack of experience. Got to remember too, and I don't love the thing that I actually don't love about him is what he had 2 years ago in the COVID year. He only played 6 games, I think 12 last year. So he doesn't have a lot of experience.
Yeah, you talked about that. Yeah, you talked about normally when you're getting a guy like a lineman, like for me, I like to have linemen that have at least 30 plus starts.
Oh,
personally,
I'll take a senior all day long.
See, and not even jumping into the positional value, which I know that Dale is an analytics guy. So I know that I'm not going to say I know he agrees with me, but I know he'll understand where I'm coming from too. When you're drafting a tackle, you really want to do that in the top 15 picks, most likely, if you want to get a top end starter at tackle.
Yeah.
Guard and center are 2 of the easiest positions to get in the mid round. So that alone is something that's frustrating for me. But kind of talking back to the bad technique with Tyler. So when we're talking about his punches being mistimed, if you watch a good offensive lineman, when they're doing their slide or kick step, their hands are coming out in unison at the same time. His punches are coming between his steps, so not timed correctly.
Absolutely.
So he's not getting the power behind it, which causes him to have to hold. He's also hitting too low or too high. So some of that can be coached. But again, I like to caution people because it's easy to say coaching at the next level is what it's going to take to fix that, and sliding inside could fix it. Obviously, we hope that's the case. But I would challenge people, go ahead and look at the list of guys that had good talent, good potential, but had bad techniques, and how many of those actually pan out and develop into that guy at the next level. Because it's easy to say, like, well, I hate to use Tim Tebow as an example, but just using him because he has such a poor throwing mechanics. He worked with some of the best quarterback coaches there is. They worked all offseason on his throwing technique. It just didn't get better. Not saying Tyler will be that, and maybe sliding inside will help a lot of that, but a lot of times those things are muscle memory, and it's hard to coach people out of bad habits.
100%.
Not saying it doesn't happen. Like when you have a defensive back who's grabby in college, most likely they're going to be grabby at the NFL. Now, it doesn't mean he's going to get 16 penalties a year. Maybe he gets 8 or whatever, and you can live with that if he's a high-end guard. I'm cool with that, right? It doesn't really matter too much at that point. If he's pancaking and driving people downfield and keeping Dak clean, I can live with 8 penalties. It's just a matter of, can he get the penalties down and get the nuance of playing guard, which he's never played before, in a short time frame. Obviously, I hope that's the case, but I do have some concerns. And I look at a guy like Darian Kennard that went after pick 129. He, in my opinion, had better film than Tyler Smith at tackle. I think he projects better to guard. I don't want to say he projects better than Tyler does, but he projects really well to guard. And I look at the value of getting a guy at 24 who's a project versus a guy at 129 who's a project. I would much rather go that route. But again, the board kind of got wiped. A lot of what we expected to happen, like Zion or Kenyon or one of those guys being there, just didn't happen. So at that point, the Cowboys have to look at their board and say, if you look at the leaked board or whatever, Lewis Seen was our highest player. Well, you have Malik Hooker and you have Donovan Wilson, you have Jaron Kearse. So even if he's your BPA, maybe you don't go that route because of the path and playing time. So maybe you go the next one. So I get that stuff.
Dallas just doesn't draft safeties. They don't.
Oh, exactly. Safeties, yeah, exactly.
So, I mean.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. It's kind of twofold. Well, I guess threefold. It's a project. Right. We hope works out. We've seen a lot of tackles move to guard, so it's not like he's like a first of his kind. This happens every year. So that part is not too big of a concern, but it is a concern. The penalties and technique is obviously an issue.
Too.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, that worked out really well.
Yeah, that's true.
This kind of
similar,
but
last thing I want to say though is center position is still an issue, right? The Cowboys have acknowledged that.
Yeah.
Now suddenly Tyler's not that guy. If Tyler's beaten out, that may do wonders for Tyler Smith, because I think there was at least a small handful of holding penalties that Connor Williams and Zach Martin got last year, where they were bailing out Dak because Tyler missed somebody on a stud or delayed blitz.
I was going to say that.
The center improvement. If the center is improved, whether Tyler develops or it's one of the other guys, that alone probably will help reduce some of the offensive line penalties on itself. But
right.
That's it.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't disagree. I think statistically, and we look at the analytics across the board, if I'm going to reach in the first round I think there was still look, Tyler was not a first round grade for the Cowboys, right? He wasn't. They had 14. They had him at 16. I think 16 was high. John and I talked about this. It's the slot, right? Am I going to get him at 56, right? And bottom line, I'm picking at 24, and that's my slot, right? 24 to 56. So I think that's how they're looking at it and how they looked at it. And if I'm going to reach for a position, especially a position of need, I'm going to reach for an offensive lineman in that situation, right? But I looked at, could we have taken Ed Ingram in the second, right? With the 56 pick? Yes. Yep, could have. And then, you could have taken Jermaine Johnson or Karlaftis or whatever in the first. Statistically, you're better off taking the offensive line on average. Okay. Now, one of the things that we're working on right now is to dive down and find out which teams do it better than others, which would be really interesting when we get out, because we're going to take it all the way to really so Now, who are the responsible scouts, for those position groups and this and that? So, because really what we want to be able to do is, I'd love to go to Jerry Jones and say, you know what, hey, the reason why you miss on these 3 picks, in whether it be the first round, second round, third round, fourth round, is because the guy that you have responsible actually analyzing that position group sucks.
Mm-hmm.
But these guys are great at it. And there's no salary cap, right? There's no salary cap at all in the scouting department. So let's go get the best scouts. So That's the kind of stuff that we're working on as we deep dive into the analytical stuff. My business partner's probably going to hate me that I actually just said that. So, John, bleep all that shit out.
See, what's funny is there might be some crowdsourcing idea-wise that I can connect with you too, because I'm working on, in my mind, a better draft grading system than what people have. Because right now it's literally just completely subjective. John looks at a pick and he's like, it's an A-. I look at a pick and I'm like, it's a B-. There's a full grade difference there, right? It could have been a B or a B+. How did he get that? How did I get mine? So what I'm trying to do is establish a baseline grade that every player starts with. Then I'm going to have things that would increase that grade and things that will decrease that grade. So it could be things like BPA, injury history, RAS scores, things like that may bump it up or bump it down, with the idea in mind that all personal bias is removed, because it doesn't matter how I feel about a school, how I feel about a player, how I feel about a conference, how I feel about history. It's literally just looking at it from a straight analytical angle where John, myself, and you could all look at the player, do the same grading, and come up with the same exact score. So that's what I'm trying to do. It's not going to be perfect. There'll be some trial by error.
Right.
But I'm working on using analytics, history, crowdsourced draft boards to come up with consensus draft stock, like where you should be to determine if it really is the BPA or if it really was a reach. Because some people are going to have Tyler as a reach. Some people are going to have him not as a reach because of the BPA and other angles. So this ideally would factor all of that in and come up with a relatively easy to determine score. So I'm trying to do some of the same stuff you are. When you talk about analytics, so I know that you probably have looked into this too, but if you look at the rate of like 5th round picks, for instance. So from 2000 to 2019, large sample size. There's literally thousands of picks in that span. Yeah. Only tight end and tight end and defensive end have had more than 20% of those picks turn into starters.
Right.
So there's things like that. So when you're looking at that, you're saying, is there even value in drafting multiple guys in round 5, or should I package those and go into round 4? Because round 4 has higher success rates. So like the Cowboys and every NFL team has access to that type of data. It just is a matter of, do you trust the data or do you trust your scouts? Do you trust this being a stronger draft class or do you not? Like when you have those factors and you're using the stats and data that's available to you, ideally you should be able to run your draft pretty smoothly every year by playing the odds. So there's a lot of things that you're saying, right? If you have a good scouting department that can say, I'm not going to use Deron Bland saying he will or won't make the team because we don't know that. But is that pick more valuable having that guy than maybe packaging that to move up earlier in the round or packaging that to move up in the 4th round or whatever to get extra picks? So I like geeking out about stuff like that because obviously there's no secret sauce. You're going to have picks that you just whiff on. It just happens. You're going to have guys that everything lined up perfectly and they just didn't get it at the next level or had an injury that derailed them or whatever. But there is a lot of stuff you can do to dummy proof it, as much as possible, and that's just playing, to your strengths at that point,
right? Yeah. So, and I looked at this, and this was interesting. So, since 2012 to 2021, offensive linemen taken in the 5th round, averaged 31 starts per every offensive lineman in that time frame. So some of them have obviously had more, some of them never, nothing, right?
Right.
But over that time frame, the average is 31 starts. In the 6th round, it's 40. So on average, the NFL is better at taking offensive linemen in the 6th round than they are in the 5th. Mm-hmm. So, which is crazy, right? So, but then when you start getting into the minutia and the weeds, and you just start diving down the rabbit hole, you start doing it by team. Right. I mean, that's when it gets real granular. So, I mean, and again, John, this, we talked about this a little bit. It's like, was it a reach? Yeah. At 24, I think it was absolutely a reach. What the hell do they have in their mind that actually moves him to the 16th best player in the draft? I have no idea. I mean, I don't. I mean, yeah, especially when you're talking about a position of need. I mean, if you're talking about intangibles, athletic ability, and all that stuff to elevate, right? But, you know, I mean, yeah.
But there's also another player that I feel like they reached on it. We can talk about Tyler Smith all night, but we kind of got to move on. And when we were talking about, you know, analytics, Dale, when you got on a couple weeks ago, you talked about the second round being the round that they risk, you know, whether it be injury, whether it be character concerns. The guy we got is Sam Williams with the 56th pick.
D Williams.
Oh, my bad.
D
with
Williams. one E.
What?
Yeah.
Make sure to spell it right.
No, I saw him on a pod. I saw him on a YouTube video, and in his name it was actually DEE. So I'm questioning.
Oh,
is it
okay.
DE or just DEE? I don't know. But
We just got to call him Billy D. Williams.
His name.
The player formerly known as Sam. That's what we're gonna call him.
Right,
Print style. Just give him a symbol.
Right.
Either way, pass rusher, extraordinaire, a little raw at the position as far as, you know, technique but I think he's a good athlete, good motor, has really good. I like his hands a lot, you know, violent hands. When he hits the quarterback, he hits the quarterback.
You know,
he puts
has
a
faster 10-yard. He has a faster 10-yard split than Jamison Williams.
Wow, that's crazy. That SEC speed is different.
Yeah.
The SEC speed is different.
Can I ask you guys, is there any player that comes into mind, whether you want to say from the SEC or not, but specifically from the SEC, an edge rusher with double-digit sacks with elite athleticism that was not a first-round pick? Like, I can't think of any recent comps. Like, it's weird. It's weird. But at the same time, most people feel like he probably was a little bit of a reach still at 56, but it's just kind of a bizarre thing because typically if you look at the numbers and you look at some of the film and you look at the athleticism, he's a guy that when you combine all that probably should have been higher than 56, but I still feel like it's a reach at 56. So it's just kind of a weird dynamic there.
It's actually funny because I kind of felt like without all of the allegations and all of the stuff that was going on, I kind of felt like he was a second rounder. But maybe the Cowboys felt like he wasn't going to make it to what, pick 83?
88.
88, yeah, he wasn't going to make it to pick 88, and that's
I just don't like that. I don't like that mindset. I like because you don't have to pick at 88. You can move up. You're not fixated at these draft slots. So take the guy that you think is the best player there, and then if you like him, move back up for him. Like I don't understand why that's the model because we're not a team that's active in the trade market that often.
Right.
We don't do a ton of draft trades. So like if you have a guy that you think, hey, I don't want to walk away from the draft without this guy, I'd rather you just take the guy that you think's the best player at 56 and then move back up for him than to take him and hope that somebody else that you had graded higher falls. Like I just think it's kind of a backwards logic there.
But do you think that Dan Quinn? Do you think Dan Quinn had? I was about to say, do you think Dan Quinn has some influence there? Because Dan Quinn, when he pounds the table for a guy, it doesn't matter if you feel like the guy is 2 rounds away. Like he's like, hey, I want this guy right here. Do you think this was just Dan Quinn just sitting down and saying, nah, I want him right now?
I mean, I can tell you firsthand from people that I know that are pretty reliable. We had 2 offensive players ranked above him that the scouts wanted, and Dan Quinn wanted him. So Will McClay took Sam Williams. So they went that route. They said, we trust DQ. No offense, scouts. We want to get DQ, his guy. So again, if that's his guy and he develops, great. Love it. Just right now, today, I don't think it was the best value.
So was Tolbert one of those offensive guys?
I have a feeling it was, but I haven't been able to find anybody to confirm who the players were. I have a feeling it was. What'd you say?
I can confirm it.
You can? Okay.
So, yeah, because I watched an interview with Will McClay, and I mean, from a source standpoint, he literally said they had back and forth discussion between Williams and Tolbert and came to the conclusion to go with Williams because it gave they thought that they could still get Tolbert at 88 or move up a little bit to get him if they needed to.
Well, I'm glad it worked out.
They did. Yeah, I'm about to say. So what does that say about like it felt like they could have got him in the 3rd round? Why was that even the discussion?
Who, Tolbert?
Yeah. Why was him and Williams even the discussion?
Because they were trying to decide to take Williams or Tolbert at 56.
Gotcha,
And
because
they
they
went
were
with
in the same
Williams.
boat. They were in the same boat technically.
They were in the same boat, and they went with Williams because they thought that there was a better chance that Tolbert, based upon how the draft had happened, the teams that wanted wide receivers had taken a bunch of wide receivers, had just gone off the list. They thought that they had a better chance of grabbing Tolbert at 88. So instead of taking Tolbert at 56, right, they didn't think there was any chance that they would actually get Williams at 88. So that's an interview on on the mothership.
Yeah, there's apparently one other player though, and I'm not sure who it was, but they're supposed to allegedly have two players that were offensive guys that they had on their board that they were considering, but decided to go with Sam Williams because of DQ's influence. So I don't know, just throwing it out there, food for thought.
Yeah, I believe that.
I mean, if you look at the board at that time, it was stronger on the offensive side, so I could see that. But again, like somebody mentioned, if that's your coordinator or your head coach or your scouting department's guy that everyone's banging on the table for, who am I to say that was the wrong pick, right? Hopefully he'll pan out. There's things to like about him. If you watch his film, there's definitely good talent there. There's definitely good athleticism there. There's things that you can unlock. Yeah. And if you watch the film too, he played a lot of 4-eye and 5 technique too that he's not going to be playing in the NFL.
Right.
So that alone should help him. And then having a guy like Tank opposite of him is better than who he had in college, and having some good defensive interior guys and having a Micah Parsons. So he's not the lone threat or the biggest priority for them to block. All that stuff should open it up and make things there for him. Where I question the pick though, again, is that rotation of defensive ends going to be pretty strong. So I don't know. And I know you guys don't either. What is snap count's going to look like? Is he going to play 40% of the snaps? Is he playing 50% of the snaps? Because Tank plays on average, like, he's been injured, of course, but he's playing like 60 to 65% of the snaps. Last year, Gregory was 55% and Dorrance was 55 and Gregory's 54%. Obviously, there's injuries to account for, but we have a relatively strong rotation at edge now, which is a good thing. But I'm also kind of wondering how much is the year one impact, because that kind of factors into things too. But year 2, 3, and 4, the impact might be significantly higher. What do you guys think?
So I got 2 questions for you based upon that. First one, Tolbert in the second, right? And then Williams in the third, same players, flip the order. Are you happy?
I mean, from like a positional value standpoint, yeah, but it's the same players. Whatever you took them doesn't really determine.
I totally understand, but you get a lot of people that are going, "Oh yeah, Williams in the second was a reach," right? But I love the Tolbert pick. Okay, so would you have loved the Tolbert pick at 56?
I would have loved Tolbert at 56. Williams
Me too.
At 88, I'd feel better about it. But again, I totally understand the question though. Like, if you flop players, does it change things for you? Yeah, a little bit. But in terms of what the players are actually going to do, obviously, it doesn't matter if they're 56 or 88. We're getting the same guys either way. But from like a fan standpoint, yeah, I'd feel a little bit better about it. But
so
I'm just curious on the rotation, what that looks like.
So
and we can jump to Tolbert now because we've been talking about Tolbert quite a bit. But he was the 88th pick, right?
Mm-hmm.
He was the 88th pick, Jalen Tolbert, out of South Alabama. So actually, me and Professor O, we had a discussion because there's still some things that for me, I personally, a lot of fans out there believe that he's going to come in and start, which I believe he will. But I think that there are a lot of things he needs to work on before he's ready to take that jump. And I'm hoping that a lot of fans are patient with him because, I mean, just like we talked about Sam Williams, Jalen Tolbert has some technique issues. He false starts a little bit. Sometimes he doesn't necessarily concentrate on the football as much every play. Sometimes he can kind of lull and fall asleep during times in the film that I watched. Professor O, I mean, do you want to elaborate on anything more about what I was talking about?
Yeah, I think and I'll be quick with it. The 2 things to watch for him is he false steps a lot. They're going to have to work on that technique because that's slightly delaying his ability to get a release. In terms of the player, I love it. I love what he has to offer. What the Cowboys are not going to like, though, if he does not develop quickly, is he is horrible as a run blocker. Like, he gives very, very little effort. There was a lot of screen passes where his guy made the play because he didn't even put any effort into it. He's also a guy that if the play is going the opposite side of the field, he's not going to aggressively fire off the line of scrimmage. He does kind of – he kind of jogs. So, like, things like that, What's our new wide receiver coach's name? Prince? I forget his first name. His last name's Prince, right?
Yeah.
The guy that came from Detroit. Yeah, his last name's Prince. Ron Prince or Rod Prince. But anyways, that's something I hope he can coach him out of, because I'm a former wide receiver. What you want to do is every single play set the defensive back up, so they don't know if it's a run play or if you're running a route. They don't know based on your release if you're running a short pass or a deep pass. So like on a run play, that's the perfect time to start testing things, see how they react to it, because you can go back on the sideline and say, hey, when we ran, I ran this, I did the inside stem, he bit, next time let's do a sluggo. So like you can set things up on every single rep. Obviously, like from college to NFL, you're expecting to see him take the next step. I love what he offers as a receiver, but run blocking is a big thing for the Cowboys. That was one of the things they soured on Amari Cooper for late in the season, is his effort in the run blocking game, in addition to other factors too. But false stepping, I think, is relatively easy to fix. It's more the run blocking, because that's really ultimately comes down to as a want-to thing. Do you want to do it or not? You don't even have to necessarily run block if it's not going your way, but will you at least release off the line of scrimmage fast to show that defensive back a look so that he can't immediately react to the run? So like there's things like that are small things, but in terms of the rest of the player, I love it at 88.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Dale?
Yeah, I like it a lot at 88, and I don't disagree with any of it. And the lackadaisical effort on the run blocking, I mean, I kind of have mixed feelings on it. One, I don't like it, right? So it's like you have to do it, all right? But, I think Kellen puts our wide receivers in position to run block way too freaking much as it is, right? Mm-hmm. So, I think it's both. It's like, yeah, you know what? He needs to provide more effort. Kellen needs to stop calling that many of those plays.
Right.
Or, if you're not going to block, at least run off the line like you're running a route and give me 100%. Something. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just fire off to the outside, make the defensive back turn to try to block you and shield you to the sideline. His back to the play. He has no idea what's happening. And then all you have to do at that point is just not push him in the back, and you probably got a pretty good run. Like there's a lot of things you can do. And again, you can test different things. Like how does he react if I fire off the line this way? How does he react if I do a stutter step? How does he react if I chop my feet? And set him up so when you actually have a passing play, you have your tool bag ready to go. Like I know he bit on this. I know he reacted quickly to that. I know he backed out quickly on that, so I can sell this and get some easy separation on hitches. So like again, if you're a competitive person, you can test him every play and not even be a high-level run blocker. Like I don't need you to be a Hines Ward and be able to light up linebackers. I just need you to at least be willing to shield a player or fire off the line quickly. So again, those things are things I think when you have a high-level wide receiver coach, you could sit down and show him, here's what you did. Let me show you an NFL comp. Watch what he did differently. Work on that and see growth. Because aside from that and the false stepping, I love that pick. Like he's my favorite pick of the draft.
Yeah, great route runner. If those are the things that we're harping on, we're fine. You know what I'm saying, with that pick, especially round 3.
Yeah, now, your biggest complaint on your wide receiver draft is that he sucks at run blocking.
Right.
That's the one that I want.
I just like to throw it out there because, well, first I was a wide receiver, so it's like in my DNA to watch.
Yeah, I feel you.
But number 2, I feel like I'd be doing people a disservice who haven't had a chance to watch him, because it's not like there's a plethora of South Alabama film out there for people to watch. So not everybody's seen him, and they know that everybody likes the pick, and that's great. I'm excited. He's my favorite pick of the draft. But at the same time, there are cons. There's a reason he wasn't a first-round pick, and there's a reason he wasn't a second-round pick, and we thought he'd fall to 88. But those things are workable. So I love what we have there.
Yeah, definitely. And we're going to move on to my favorite pick of the draft, Jake Ferguson, Wisconsin. Yeah, I kept trying to tell people, in my mock draft, I got killed for, why are we taking another tight end? I'm like, man, 12 personnel, and we got a guy that can run block, that comes from a culture of, hey, you need to know how to block. Last time, I want to say we took a guy from Wisconsin. He was pretty damn good, right?
He was, yeah.
Yeah. So for me, Jake Ferguson, I see people who say that he's not good at yak. I think that he's pretty solid at yak. Not necessarily a fleet of foot guy. He's not quick. He's not going to make you miss. But he kind of finds ways to break tackles. You know what I'm saying? Like if you try and tap his ankles, he's not going to fall down like Dalton Schultz does.
Right.
You're not going to throw him a 6-yard stop, and he's going to stop at 6 yards. Like he's going to get you a little bit of extra yards. He might get you a couple of chunk plays here and there. But most importantly, he's your second tight end to this offense. And I think that it was something that was needed, personally.
Yeah, I like the pick. I like the pick, and I like the value.
Yes.
At tight ends in the fourth round, really. I mean, even though historically over the last 10 years, first-round tight ends, if they make it to the first round, are by far the best top performers. But, yeah, the value in the fourth round at the tight end position on starts, yeah, I like it a lot. I like him in the fifth, too. I wish Dallas would actually do a better job in the fifth.
I think that they got him because of what you talked about. Maybe they figured somebody was going to take him in the fifth before they got a shot, so they took him.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it. I think that's and every team does it. It's not just Dallas, right? They're looking at the block from the 129 to 155, right? That's where we're picking. That is our slot of guys. You know, which ones do we like better? And we're going through who's dropped, who hasn't, who was in the previous block, who's in this block. And at that point in time, I mean, it really doesn't matter if you're picking them 129 or 154, right? If you're going to stick with the pick, unless you figure, you know, somebody's going to drop back there. And, you know, I love trade backs for draft capital, for darts. As you know, I would prefer not to, you know, I don't want to trade back in the fourth and pick up more fifth and sixth and seventh round picks, because you should trade those away every year, right? So every team should trade those away, try to trade them away every year, you know, just because it just doesn't pan out. I mean, the percentage of starts that you get per draft player out of the fifth, sixth, seventh round.
Especially for Dallas, fifth round. We probably got a better shot at sixth rounders than we do fifth rounders.
I can tell you.
I mean, Skywalker Steel on A to Z Sports did a show showing our last 10 drafts in the fifth round. And like Joseph Randle was arguably one of the best fifth round picks we've had. Like it's not pretty. But again, that's not different from the rest of the league though. I mean, if you look at a lot of teams in the fifth round, they're not hitting frequently. It's just the reality of that draft slot where you're at.
It's also the reality of being a Dallas Cowboy fan as well, because we're not, you know, we're not going to go out and get a whole bunch of free agents. So all we have is these draft picks. So we're expecting them to hit on every draft pick. So when our fifth rounder doesn't pan out, of course, we're going to do shows on we suck at drafting in the fifth round, because it's that much.
Dallas is ranked 20th in the league over the last 10 years on starts per fifth round pick. 20th.
Wow. Okay, that should tell you all you need to know.
Yeah.
I just want to say real quick on Jake Ferguson. So he was not my favorite tight end in the class, but I like him. I think he was a very good value at this pick. What I love about it is Dallas wants to do more 12 personnel. When Blake Jarwin was healthy last year, we did 12 personnel. I believe it was 33 or 34% of the snaps. We were pretty heavy in 12 personnel early. As soon as Jarwin went out, it dropped down to like 26% range. So why 12 personnel is valuable is when you have a Michael Gallup who's injured early in the season, that extra receiver comes off. So now you're only with two receivers, two tight ends. Last year, Cowboys averaged 4.8 yards per carry running out of 12 personnel, and Dak had a 110 quarterback rating passing out of 12 personnel. That was his highest quarterback rating he had of any of the major 4 personnel groupings we were in, and it was the second highest rushing average. So in terms of like the total offense, we did better in personnel than anything else we had. So if you have a Jake Ferguson, and if he does anything at all, like let's say he has 350 or 400 yards receiving, opposite of Schultz getting 700 or 800, you're getting over 1,000 yards receiving from your tight ends. You're in really good shape at that point.
Really good shape.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and I haven't looked at it, and that brings up a good point. So the last 7 games, when 11 personnel and even trying to run out of 11 personnel, you know, they just, I mean, how much were we in 12 personnel in the last 7 games? Because the
I can
way
look it up and tell you,
we're playing us, right, and taking away and playing the coverage on the 11, 12 personnel actually kind of neutralizes that, right? Because, but I don't know. That's interesting. I want to go back and look at it and go, okay, so how much? Because with Blake Jarwin hurt, the tight ends that we had on the roster, just being Schultz, right? I mean, did we get away from 12 personnel midseason?
We absolutely did. No, we absolutely did. Yeah. And another reason 12 personnel is so effective in addition to obviously having an extra tight end versus a wide receiver from the run blocking standpoint, is it's hard for NFL teams to cover a tight end because you have a defensive back who has a size disadvantage, you have a linebacker who has an athleticism disadvantage, and you have a safety who has a height disadvantage. So when you have two of those guys on the field, if they both are adequate receivers, they don't have to be elite high-level guys. You don't need a George Kittle on both sides. But if you have two guys that offer any threat at all from an athletic standpoint, it puts a lot of pressure on a defense because you're looking at – I don't want to have my nickel personnel out there against 12 personnel because it sides the offensive favor. So I need to get in my base formation more often when they're in 12 personnel, and now I have linebackers who are a mismatch or a safety who's a mismatch against both tight ends. So it puts a lot of pressure on a defense from a scheming standpoint. So I like it, and it gets, like you said, it helps the run game. It offers the Cowboys a little bit of protection in buying time while Michael Gallup's out. I like the receiving core, actually, but if the Cowboys aren't quite as sure, more 12 personnel will definitely do them a service this year.
Yeah. There you go. And who was the other tight end? So it was McKinney?
McEwen.
Yeah, McEwen.
He has an Irish name, so McEwen. But yeah.
So
from Michigan.
But he was banged up last year, right?
Mm-hmm. Apparently, they liked him a lot in training camp, and he got hurt right before preseason, so he missed time. But yeah, they were pretty high on him, so we'll see.
Definitely. And then we go to our next pick, which was Matt Waletzko out of North Dakota, which I know my guy Foots was huge on him in the Senior Bowl, and I see him as a guy that can offer value as a developmental swing tackle. What say you guys? I really like his tape. I like his athleticism. Sure, he can get a little bit more knee bend and stuff like that, but, you know, he's a 5th-round pick, which huge guy.
Yeah, 5th-round offensive lineman. There's not a big drop-off on offensive linemen from the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th rounds, right, as far as the projected starts per pick. So I like taking projects out here with with Matt, with him, I can't get past his build. I mean, I haven't watched any film on him or anything. I know athletically he scored well, right? But I look at this guy and I'm like going, I can't imagine you practicing against D-Law and D-Law not putting you on your ass every single rep, right? Because he doesn't have arms, he doesn't have shoulders, he just doesn't have mass. Now I know Vach always likes to talk about off-season peanut butter, but I mean, you got to think balls ahead of him. This is one of the picks to where, to me, it was an athletic pick, right? It was based upon traits, right? And so, I mean, I think he's a practice squad guy.
Yeah, that's fine for me because I feel like you ever go and play pickup basketball and there's somebody that just looks terrible and they're just much better than what they look like.
Yeah,
that's kind of how I feel about him. Like he's very, very tall. He looks like a basketball player. Probably was he a basketball player? Probably was a basketball player.
Yeah, I
don't know. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me with his height and length.
Surprise me.
But he moves so well.
Right?
Yeah,
he moves so well. Like combo blocking and all that stuff. Good hands. You know what I'm saying? Like he might not have the arm length and stuff like that, but like his technique is pretty solid.
Arms. His arms are 3 feet long.
Sheesh.
See, like this pick, again, I'm hopeful that the Cowboys scouting personnel crushed it. I just look at this pick and I think this would have been a perfect territory to get a guy like Jamari Salyer from UGA, who was an All-American at tackle and projects better to play guard, because now you have Tyler Smith and Salyer that both have potential position flex. If Tyler Smith becomes your long-term tackle, maybe Salyer's your long-term guard. From a value standpoint, and plus I watched him play against all of Alabama's best pass rushers. I watched him play in the SEC. Like a North Dakota guy doesn't mean he can't pan out. It's not North Dakota State. This is just North Dakota, different schools. Doesn't mean he can't pan out. But like I would have rather gone that route. But again, we'll see. There's things to like about him. I just feel like from a strength standpoint, he's not there yet, and that's a concern.
Yeah.
I did want to talk really quick before we move on too much. I looked it up since Dale asked. The first 7 games of the year last year, the Cowboys were in 12 personnel, 32% of the snaps. The last 7 games, 18%. It's a huge drop off.
Huge drop off.
Yeah.
And then suddenly defenses had answers for us because we didn't have anything to counter that. And it's kind of play into what they're looking for.
Right. So the 4th pick, I mean, he could, outside of, I mean, I think Tyler Smith is going to have the most impact, whether it be good or bad, because he's going to be on the field more than Williams or well, probably not Tolbert. I think Tolbert will be on the field. We'll see when Gallup comes back. He's going to be thrown into the fire. But, so Jake Ferguson could turn into the guy that actually brings the most value from this draft to the team.
Exactly. That's why he's my favorite pick. And also, I really wanted Dolchich at 88, but he went to 83. So I was fine with taking Tolbert and then falling into Ferguson at 129. I was straight with that. I was fine with that and how it played out. So next pick, Deron Bland out of Fresno State, Dan Quinn special. He had to get his guy in the 6th round. Nothing to really write home about, I wouldn't say, but maybe he's a guy that can make practice squad or something like that. Because Dan takes these type of guys and you'll be like, oh, it's just another corner, and the next thing you know, the guy has 6 picks. You're like, he has to make the team. So
I think from an athletic standpoint, he scored off the chart, right? I mean, from just upside and athletic. I mean, I think if he can come in, and he's a special teams guy, right? So if he can come in and dominate and play special teams, then I think he can ultimately bring value. And you're always looking for that, right?
Do you think he'll bump CJ Goodwin though? Because that's where I'm having an issue with this pick. Is I get it from a trait standpoint, and I get he could be a special team stash that you develop, but this year, if we're talking about just this year, I look at the cornerback group, and even taking Bossman out of the equation, I can't see any way he's in the top 5 at cornerback unless he beats out CJ Goodwin. And if Bossman is there, if he is there, then he has to be in the top 6 with Goodwin. And then if he projects to safety, I look at the safety room too, and I'm like, I don't know that he projects to be a top 5 safety. So I don't know where he fits. Out of all the draft picks, he's the one that I have the hardest time seeing what the plan is. But DQ and Al Harris are great at what they do, so I'll defer to them there. But right now, I'm like, I don't see how it lines up for him unless there's a surprise cut at corner.
Insurance on special teams,
right?
Because outside of the last 2-3 games, right, that's all Joseph did.
Yeah,
was play special teams. So that, to me, that's all that pick was a Kelvin Joseph insurance for special teams.
Just in case.
Just in case.
But we have Diggs, right? Anthony Brown, Jordan Lewis. So our top 3 is pretty set.
Yep.
Right. We'll take Bossman out of the equation for right now. So we have Wright. I have a hard time believing they're going to move on from a 3rd-round pick that quickly. There's a possibility because 3rd-round picks aren't always secure, but I'd be shocked if they moved on that quickly from him. And then CJ Goodwin. So that's your top 5. So he would have to beat out CJ Goodwin realistically, taking Bossman completely out of the equation. And if you add him in the equation, then he has to beat out. He definitely has to beat out. Would have any chance at cornerback.
But wait a minute, all 5 of those guys, including Kelvin Joseph, were there last year. Right?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Right. So you just dropped Kelvin out of the equation, and now he's just your special teams corner.
That's assuming that Kennedy doesn't come back. Is Kennedy gone?
Kennedy's not on the roster right now.
He's not.
He's a free. Yeah, he's a free agent.
Okay, gotcha.
No, but even taking Bossman out of the equation, though, again, you have your top 3 set. You have Diggs, Brown, Lewis. You have Wright as your 4th corner, and you have CJ Goodwin as your 5th corner. So and he's our special teams ace. So again, he would have to beat out Goodwin to be in the top 5 to even make the roster.
But those were the
only way that happens.
Not even including Bossman.
It's the only way that happens is if there's injuries. That's it.
Yeah, it's the same 5 as last year. So again, he would have to be your 6th corner if you don't even factor in Bossman.
You'd have to be
unless he beat out CJ,
assuming that Bossman's not there.
Right. Yeah.
I have a hard time believing that they go 6 corners with how many defensive linemen we have. I have a hard time believing that. I think they go deep defensive linemen.
Especially with what we have at edge right now. Like I don't know who they're going to remove in the defensive end equation to factor in a special teams.
I was going to bring that
especially if they have Goodwin.
Oh, that's a good point because I was going to bring it up earlier because originally I was like Jermaine or Carlos in the 1st round, but then I started thinking about that exact same question, And I'm like, going, okay, wait a minute. Your first round pick. I mean, are we just done with Chauncey? I mean, Terrell's going to
Nah, I think Tristan might be the guy that.
Yeah, but he's a tackle. I'm just talking about the edges.
Yeah, true.
And from what we did this offseason with the Randy Gregory situation and the Cowboys saying, well, we have Dorrance who can match that production. Can you really afford to draft somebody and replace Dorrance with that guy that you just drafted, saying Dorrance was your reason you let Gregory go? Like, it's
Right.
all like, and then you sign Fowler and you have a plan for him. And then you have Chauncey Goldson you spent a third-round pick on last year.
Right.
And obviously you have Tank. Like, the edge room, like Terrell Basham is maybe that guy you could potentially move. But again, like, and obviously a second-round pick with Sam Williams. So, like, I don't know who you cut in the edge group for Bland. That's where I'm like, if I have to choose between the defensive ends and a fifth-round cornerback with traits, I'm going with the defensive ends. But if he beats out Goodwin straight up, like, that's really his avenue, in my opinion, unless there's an injury, is he has to beat out Goodwin. And then you save money, not a lot, but it'll be like a $500,000 or $600,000 cap savings if they move on. But Bones Fossil has a lot of pull too. So he would have to really perform at a high level. But again, maybe he shows up and there's something we haven't seen yet from a developmental standpoint.
Right.
And, our next pick is probably a red shirt, but we got Clark out of LSU, which is a lot of people.
Steven says he's playing in 2022.
Come on, bro.
He also told us Neville Gallimore was only going to miss a couple of weeks and that Gallup's going to be there week 2 or week 3, but he's going to be there in November. So.
Like this guy.
Yeah, apparently, I don't know. Steven's selling wolf tickets. It is what it is, man. He's no doctor, so I don't trust him. Like, if he tells me a guy's going to be ready for week 1, I'm just thinking I'm going to get him after Thanksgiving.
This was one of my favorite picks.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Damon Clark is one of my favorite picks for one reason and one reason only. The injured player did not get drafted in the second round. Because over the last 10 years, I'm so tired of seeing that. So you know what? I love this pick because he was a fifth.
Yeah,
I think that's the best way to put it. If you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna take that risk, let it be on somebody that's a fifth rounder where you're not slated to hit that pick anyway because we suck at it.
They already suck in fifth round picks anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
29th. So where are they at? Starts retain. No. Oh, they're dead last in the last 5 years in fifth round picks.
Does not surprise me.
Starts for fifth round picks. Average starts for fifth round picks is 7.3. They are 32nd in the league.
Does not surprise me.
Well, hey, I'm okay with hey, it is what it is, right?
This pick is not going to increase those numbers.
No.
So what's weird about Clark, I like the player. At that value, I love that value. He has a weird thing with him where he's like, because LSU has a pretty decent defensive line. Like, Neil Farrell was a third-round pick, right?
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I don't know if it's a read and react. I need to watch more film to try to diagnose this. I'm not sure if it's a read and react thing, if he's seeing things slow or what it is. He makes a lot of tackles downfield. Like, a lot more than I'm not comparing him to Jalen Smith, so like don't think that. But if you look at like a statistical standpoint, his average depth of tackle was 5.8 yards. Like Leo Chenal was 2.0. Christian Harris was 1.5. Like all of Troy Anderson was like 2.7 or something. All the other top linebackers are like 3.5 yards or less, and his is 5.8. So maybe it's a scheme thing. Maybe it's a diagnosing things. It's just weird because he's a good athlete who has a pretty good defensive line. So it's not like he's just catching players because the line got blown up. It's just weird. I don't know what it is.
It could be a run fit thing, possibly, because I know in talking to Marcus Spears sometimes, and I know they don't have the same coaches, but over down at LSU, sometimes they'll have schemes that are just different. You know what I'm saying? Right. So it's a possibility that it is a run fit thing.
Yeah, it could be. And again, not anything I'm super concerned about, especially for a fifth round pick, but I just thought it's interesting. Like, he's not even close. He's by far he's like a whole yard and a half further than any other linebacker taken in the first 4 rounds. Not sure why that is. It's just weird, especially in the SEC when you have lots of linebackers who are from the SEC playing against similar competition. And he has a good defensive line. Like, he has a better defensive line than Troy Anderson and some of the other guys I named. So, don't know why it is. I need to watch more film to kind of get to the bottom of that. I'm wondering if it's a scheme fit thing or possibly he's slightly slow at reacting. But again, for a 5th-round pick, where he's at, love it. Great.
How do they have him lined up too?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you know, is he playing deeper outside the box? You know, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I didn't watch him at all. I'm not, you know. And so other than just the LSU games that I caught on TV.
I do want to say too with tackles real quick, slight mini rant. I'll be quick. Don't worry about his tackles too much. People are seeing his tackle numbers and saying he's better than Nakobe Dean. He's better than this player. He's better than that player. Tackles are team reported. That's very important to know because some teams only track on assisted tackles the first 2 players involved in the play. Some teams track every single player who makes contact or is in the pile at all, which is why you have some teams in the NFL that have 3 or 4 players with 100+ tackles, and you have other teams that have nobody over 100 tackles. It's just a difference in the way that they chart tackles. Yardage and everything else is actually run. That's much easier to quantify, but tackles are actually team reported. So if you look at like ESPN's app on a game day and you look at the actual NFL.com numbers later that week, they won't match up because the team
they
reported
adjust.
that. So when you look at him saying he's a tackle machine, he had 135 tackles and 72 solo, and that's almost as much as Nakobe Dean had total. Not even making it a Dean versus Clark thing. It's just literally a difference in the way that the teams report their tackles. So that's it. I'm done.
That's interesting. But can we jump to my favorite 5th-round pick?
Yeah, go ahead.
John Ridgeway.
Big country.
Arkansas.
Oh, yeah, my bad. Arkansas. I don't know why it's at Illinois State.
Did he transfer from there maybe? Did he? I think he made
he was there. Yeah, he was there. Yeah.
Okay. He transferred to Arkansas, I know. So.
Yeah, he was at Arkansas for 1 year. But, yeah, this guy right here, I mean, this is the guy that, you know, I was watching Fox's show yesterday, and he said that this might be the guy that puts Tristan out on the street.
Yeah. Yeah, even though they're different, right? And they really Tristan really came in as a 3-tech. But
Tristan isn't their guy though.
But
Tristan
he's not
isn't
their guy. But I think Ridgeway will put Tristan on the street. Hopefully,
let me ask you guys this
for like a 5th-round pick, you know, because he's just as good as Amari.
Do you think Ridgeway will put Quinn Bohanna on the street? That's the question that I want to know because they're both.
I think he puts him on the bench, and not. Wait. No, because look, Bohanna has had an off season and all of that stuff. He's only going to get better. You know, Ridgeway will probably work himself in. But if we're talking about next year and the year after that, we might be talking about something completely different.
He could put them both on the street, depending on how many they want.
That's actually a very interesting point. Go ahead, Dale. I want to hear this.
Yeah.
So because you know they brought Watkins back, I don't see them cutting Watkins. And
he was good last year.
Scheme and what they plan on doing, I mean, it could literally Tristan's out and Bohanna's out. I think
and the reason that's interesting too is again, Sam Williams last year played 4-eye and 5 technique.
I don't think
not saying they're going to use him there. I'm just saying
he
when you go NASCAR formations, you may kick a DeMarcus Lawrence inside for certain personnel groupings. You may decide I want Osa and Neville Gallimore as my interior defense lineman. They have a lot of different guys that they can move around and play in different spots. I don't know that it's a full-time thing. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen, but you can get different looks. Like we had snaps last year where Micah Parsons technically lined up as the nose tackle just because he was lined up directly over the center. Obviously, that's not what his act. He wasn't really a zero technique, but from like a charting standpoint, he was. So like with what we have from a versatility standpoint, if you're asked pass rushing situation, would you rather have Tristan on the field or would you rather slide a defensive end and get Fowler next to Tank? Like I think that's a pretty easy answer.
And
so
who was our best 3-tech last year in the last half of the season? Who had more pass pressures than any other tackle on the team? Percentage-wise.
Was that Gallimore?
No.
It was Osa?
Tank.
So
I was going to say that. Hey, look,
okay.
Hey, look, I was thinking it the whole time, and I'm like, he said tackle, so I'm like, nah.
That's where it threw me off, and I was thinking maybe he meant like literally.
Yeah, right. If you didn't go tackle in there, I'd have been like,
so our defensive end playing the 3-tech had more pressures than any of the tackles playing 3-tech. So, I mean, and when you start, we just talked about defensive ends, right? With Williams coming in, I mean, could you see Bohanna, and Tristan gone, based upon their scheme and who they cover. If they're going to go, hey, you know what, we're going to drop Lawrence in. We could put, Basham or Golston and rush Micah off the edge, leave D-Law in there, running from the 3 technique and rotate through with Chauncey and Gallimore, right? So where does Bohanna fit in?
That's why I was asking if you think Ridgeway being on the roster bumps Bohanna, because if Ridgeway is who we think it is, who we think he is, and we know the team likes Carlos Watkins, how many teams are 3 deep at 1 tech? More often than not, you keep more 3 techniques than 1 tech. So I don't know that they would keep a 3rd one.
Mm-hmm. No, I don't think they will either.
Excellent
and they
point.
tried playing Trista at 1.
And obviously, if they got him, they feel like we needed a 1 tech. We needed a number one technique, which all of us were kind of clamoring for. If you think about it, they've hit every need that we wanted. It might not have been the player that we wanted,
Right.
but they hit 1 technique. They hit tight end. They hit receiver. They hit a linebacker. I mean, I don't know if the linebacker's going to play, but they hit linebacker. And then eventually they had another pick to hit cornerback, just in case some things happen. They hit everything we wanted. Which leads me to the last pick, which is, you're probably not going to spend too much time on, but Devin Harper out of Oklahoma State, which, I haven't really watched too much tape on him. I mean, he was kind of a guy where you talked about Clark getting tackles down the field. He's a guy that I saw doing that a lot on the tape that I watched.
Right. What's weird about him, going back to Bland, is if you listen to the secret audio, and obviously you shouldn't take too much into it, but it's interesting nonetheless. Dan Quinn was really excited when he talked to Devin Harper. When he talked to Deron Bland, it was kind of just like a congratulations, happy to have you here. It was very short. Maybe the audio was longer and they cut it. I don't know. But he seemed genuinely excited about Harper, which I'm like, I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know his avenue. I guess he could beat out a Luke Gifford, and maybe since Bernard's back, well, not Francis Bernard anymore, maybe he's your 5th or 6th linebacker or something and special teams guy. But like size, athletic traits, like are there film? I wasn't impressed, but they like him. They drafted him, so I don't have too much to say aside from that.
I don't either.
Do you think that they say
touch on
go ahead.
that we didn't touch on that I love, and I think the Cowboys have been doing this the last 2 years. So I'm pretty sure he was a state champ wrestler, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, statistically in the past, and I want to dive into it more and just see how that correlates to success within the NFL, that level of experience. I mean, can you quantify it? Can you put a percentage on it? That's what I want to look at. But I know, they've been doing it as of late, and it's worked out really well. And when I watch some of Ridgeway's highlights on the mat, on the wrestling match, I'm like, that dude is a beast.
Well, what does translate are the hands. If you're a good wrestler, you have good hands.
Yeah.
Defensive tackles having good hands, all of them are big. Like every defensive tackle is a big guy and strong.
Yeah.
If you have good hands to disengage linemen, to get separation, to set up any pass rushing move or a bull rush by getting them off of you, that's huge. So, yeah, that's a good point. And I know Osa was the wrestler last year. He was like a state champ. He actually wrestled Tristan Wirfs in high school and like the state championship or something. So, yeah, interesting point there.
Yeah. And so after we gone through all of the draft picks, man, like what are you guys' grades on this draft overall?
I don't grade drafts.
I don't either,
Ask
but
me in 4 years.
people like them.
Ask me in 4 years. I'm not.
I say 3. For me, 3.
Yeah, that's probably accurate. At least 3. So, not applicable right now. They get an NA from me.
I don't know how you could even grade this draft anyways, even if you are a grading person, because you have Damon Clark that maybe an A+ or maybe a C. We don't know. Yeah. We don't know how he's going to do injury-wise. You have quite a few guys that we don't really know how they fit right now, so it's hard to say. Like Deron Bland may turn out to be a core special teams player, and if you got him in round 5, you love the pick. But if he doesn't and he doesn't make the team, you're like, well, it was just a 5th round pick, whatever. So I don't know how you even grade this draft.
I think there are 5 guys in this draft that could be boom or bust.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. And that's the first 3 picks, the first 4 picks really, and Ridgeway. I think the potential there for Ridgeway could be a total boom guy. You know, as much as a one tech is going to be a boom guy, right? Just solid, nasty contributor in the middle. I mean, Baltimore's done it for years with their one techs, right? So I think there's 5. I mean, I don't think, you know, from Matt Walesko and Deron Bland, I mean, Damon Clark, to your point, you know, you don't know what he's going to be. So maybe it's 6. You know, I didn't see, from what I saw, what I did see of Damon Clark, I don't think he's a boom. You know, I don't, you know, the odds of him actually being one of those boom hits, you know, I didn't put him in that category just from a talent standpoint. But I mean, I wouldn't be, if I was wrong, I'd be, you know, that's awesome. But, you know, I think there's 5 guys that are boom or bust, you know, and the rest are just guys.
And gotcha. And the last question I have for you guys, so I can let you guys go, and it's 11-11 right now, so this is probably a great question. Do the Cowboys have any glaring needs in your book?
Yes.
Yeah.
Swing tackle is a major concern for me.
It's a huge concern. I'm with you 100%. It's the biggest concern.
We've all seen what happens when Tyron's out. That's why I understand the Leo Collins situation, what happened, but I think it was ridiculous from a team standpoint to make the move with him being a post-June 1st cut before the draft. There's just no reason to do so. Hold on to him because you don't get the cap savings until June 1st anyways. You may as well hold on to him and protect yourself in case the draft doesn't fall the way you want it to. And then maybe if it doesn't fall your way, you say,
I agree.
You know, well, let's go versus having Collins come off the bench or Steele come off the bench. Either way, I'm good at tackle for the first time in a long time. Like, I just don't understand that decision, especially not getting immediate cap satisfaction. If the draft goes your way and you get your swing tackle you feel good about, then you cut him. All they did was him a service. But if he was in your doghouse, why are you helping him out? You have a team to worry about. It's cool to be like, you know, to take care of players, but you should be focused on the Cowboys winning a Super Bowl. And if you think he is your best option at swing tackle until you have another answer, there's no reason to make that move right now.
The only thing that I don't know, and I haven't looked at this, and we could jump on over the cap real quick and find out, is if they'd have kept Lyle until after the draft, you know, because to me his value is higher today than it was the day that we're trying to trade him, right? So
agreed.
Were there any did his contract become guaranteed sometime in March?
No.
To where no,
his
didn't. I feel like it's the same situation as
his didn't
right
because
now.
of last year when he got suspended. When he got suspended, it voided his guarantee for this year. I don't know if you remember that coming out, but last year his suspension voided his guarantee.
I just didn't know whether or not the Cowboys have said that they have never exercised that within the contracts.
Yeah,
that's what they talked about with Gregory. So I just wasn't sure whether or not they actually exercised that. So it's an easy look. That's the only reason that if you're going to release him or try to trade him, and you're going to do it as a post-June, the only reason you do it when you do it is if some reason his contract was becoming guaranteed after 5 days after the league year, whatever, you know, starts, something along those lines. Because if you just don't want him, it's just, and that's not happening, it's stupid business to cut him now. Wait until after the draft. Keep your mouth shut and go to any team that didn't get the tackle they wanted in the draft and trade him.
Yeah. I mean, we saw the same thing with Cooper, right? Like, we had a hard deadline because of that reason you mentioned. His contract was going to become guaranteed. But if the Cowboys decided to worry about the cap space versus the draft compensation at that point, because had they held on to him, shortly after that, we saw multiple trades with wide receivers getting huge ransoms.
Right.
Then in the draft, we see a guy like Marquise Goodwin command a first-round pick. I just don't believe for a second, even if his contract guaranteed, we could not have gotten more than a 5th-round pick and a 9-spot move up in round 6 had we just let the contract become guaranteed. But again, that's gone at this point. Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. But you also have to look at the math. You have to look at the math and take the math into consideration. And remember, if they were actually trying to sign Randy Gregory, and if Cooper was on this team right now with this $20 million, we'd be $4-5 million over the cap.
Right.
Right. So something would have to change. So
Yeah,
I'm
and
not
that's the
justifying
J-Ron
it.
Curse money came from that too. So
Yeah, I'm not justifying it or agreeing with it. I think it's stupid, but I kind of understood them pushing in March because of that guarantee.
Yeah.
Right. So
Gotcha. And that probably was one of my biggest issues as to why they didn't restructure Amari last year or something like that, because maybe we're talking about something completely different, but I don't know. Yeah, I mean,
when they didn't though, like what's kind of ironic about this whole thing is when Cooper signed his contract, everybody said it's really a 2-year deal.
yeah,
Well, we didn't touch his contract last year, kind of confirmed what we all thought. And then this year, everybody's like, I can't believe they moved on. Like, I mean, we kind of knew this all along. You may not have wanted to accept reality, but we all kind of knew that was coming.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, actually, talking about Amari, I feel like there's a glaring need at receiver, in my opinion, with Michael Gallup being out, because I don't trust that Michael Gallup will be back in the beginning of the season, and I don't think that Tolbert will be ready for the type of reps that we're going to need him to be ready for. For me, like, and I put a video out not too long ago, I think that they need a veteran receiver to kind of, I guess, be a gatekeeper until Michael Gallup gets back, or so that he doesn't have to rush and get back and not be as effective. That's just me.
So you don't think James Washington's that guy?
No, I don't think James Washington's that guy.
So like a T.Y. Hilton,
T.Y.
Jones,
yeah.
somebody like
yeah.
that?
Yeah, I'm more so.
Obviously, Julio's probably not realistic, but yeah.
I'm more so T.Y. Hilton. I know that they brought him in. That's probably more than likely what they'll do. If you think about what they did last year, they brought in both safeties, Casey and Hooker, and they signed both of them. So it's more than likely that it will probably be T.Y. Hilton. But I think T.Y. Hilton will probably be the veteran presence that will fit.
Yeah,
I want them to sign Sam Tevi. They brought him in before the draft. He's a veteran. He's 27 years old. He's coming off an ACL injury, but he was a 3-year starter for the Chargers. He could be your veteran swing tackle that you have confidence in, because we don't know what Josh Ball is. We've never seen him play an NFL snap. We have obviously no idea what Let's Go is. So there's quite a few guys. Like, there's big names like an Eric Fisher or Riley Reif. I don't think we'll go that route, but there's quite a few veteran swing tackles. Going into the season without that, to me, is insane. Knowing Tyron's injury history.
I agree with both of you. I mean, obviously, swing tackle, wide receiver. I mean, those are the two. My concern with Gallup, and I'm tired of them saying that he could be ready. Gallup, from an injury history standpoint, hasn't healed quickly. I mean,
great point. Excellent point.
You know, and so you're just assuming that the worst surgery or the worst injury he's had is going to heal faster.
Well, like, to your point with Michael Gallup, so ACL injuries are not what they used to be, right? But he had surgery in February. The fastest like NFL recovery ever was Adrian Peterson. He's like the golden example of that, and he was like 7.5 months. So absolute best case scenario, he heals as quickly as possible. That's a September turnaround time for him being like a full clear. And then he's going to need time to ramp up. Obviously, he can condition during rehabbing, but he's going to need time before he's actually ready. So best case scenario, he's starting out on the PUP list. More realistic, though, if you look at George Pickens, he tore his ACL last March. He came back in the end of November. That was his timetable. And that was also considered a faster injury recovery. So I just don't see any way at all he's back until at least the end of October. Like Halloween is like the earliest I could see it.
Yeah, exactly. So we better get a wide receiver.
Yeah. Or hope that Ferguson is that guy, so that 12 personnel, we can mitigate that slightly. But yeah, I still think that's a big issue too.
So when the defensive coordinators figure out how to get away from the 12 personnel, which forces us into 11 personnel, you really have faith in the wide receivers and Kellen Moore to make those adjustments.
The wide receivers, I have more confidence in than Kellen Moore. But still, that's a good point, though. It's a good point.
Right?
I mean, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because James Washington, you're assuming he's the guy that played with Ben before Ben's arm was shot, but that was 3 years ago.
Right.
Yeah,
that's a long time.
I actually have high hopes for Washington.
I like him, but again, that's kind of where we're at with it. And then you have Tolbert, who's going to take some time to develop as an NFL receiver.
Right.
He'll play right away. He'll get a lot of playing time, but I mean, it's a concern.
Yeah, my concern with Washington is that he's a lot like for me, my big comparison to him coming out of college was Dez, and then when you look at his tape in the NFL, not a guy that creates a lot of separation, which is Dak friendly. You know,
Right.
I don't know that him and Dak necessarily click like that. You know, but
That's why Kellen's my enemy. That's why Kellen's my enemy. So I'm like team bunch formation is my absolute favorite personnel grouping. I don't care if it's a split bunch or a tight bunch. I love bunch personnel because it causes a lot of immediate quick separation. It has natural rub routes, natural pick concepts. It causes chaos for defenses.
Sean McVay's only been doing it.
That's all he does. Like he does.
He's only been doing that since Washington. When
if you watch the 49ers playoff game again, there's at least, I think I counted 8 times where we were in bunch formation and had pre-snap motion to pull Cooper out of the bunch across the formation. Like, you just took our strength and balanced it out and helped the defense out. Like, why would you sub our motion out of that? If anything, go motion twins and motion into it. Like, because then suddenly linebacker, safeties, and cornerbacks are like, you got him. What if they cross? It causes like chaos. Like, I'm all about bunch. And it's crazy because Boise does a lot of bunch. Kellen played in that system. Like, I don't know why we do bunch formation, but just not at a high enough clip compared to teams like the Rams. The Bengals run quite a bit of it.
Don't we primarily run that stupid little bubble screen, wide receiver screen out of that bunch?
Yeah, we use it as a lead blocker. Like we put
Kellen seems to me like he doesn't understand the formation. It's just a play. Right? This is just giving me a little screen to one of the wide receivers, and we're going to show it. And when we motion out of it, it's because we're not really running that play.
Right.
Yep. Well, guys, it's been a blast. I enjoyed my time with you guys this evening. Before we go, though, man, Dale, we got Hemp for Pros, man. Can you say a little bit to the people about Hemp for Pros? Because I wanted to do it a little bit early, but you know, we kind of got wrapped up in the draft talk, and we didn't get to talk about it so much.
We don't have to. I got to pee.
Well, yeah, Hemp for Pros, man. You guys go out, check out some of the products. You know, proceeds help veteran players out there. You got the coupon code DMVFanatic. A lot of CBD products for healing and stuff like that, man. Go check it out and
support your retired football player.
Absolutely. And, you know, Dale has the word that we're going to be talking to some of these veteran players coming soon. Hopefully, hopefully coming soon.
Well, we're definitely going to get your cousin back on here.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, man. Just let him know. He's trying to coach with me at Flint Hill right now, but I haven't heard from him in a while. So in about a week. So we'll definitely set that up.
Yeah. I'm going to make him wear a cowboy hat or something.
Yeah. Well, yeah, appreciate you guys. Where can everybody find you?
Also, all of our stuff and all of our blogs and all of our podcasts and that we do are on hempforpros.com, somewhere on the website. So we just drive all the traffic there. It's the one place that benefits all the Pro Football Retired Players Association, the individual athletes themselves, their causes and what they're trying to work on. We make sure and really promote what they're doing, whether it's book signings or book deals or public speaking or, kids clubs, whatever the passion is. So go to hempforpros.com, check it out. I mean, even if you're not into the CBD products and you just want to see what your favorite ex-football player is actually doing, you can check it out there.
All right, gotcha. Professor O, where can he find you?
You can find me on Twitter, Professor O_NFL, Cowboys Wire, Star Gang Podcast on Wednesday nights. And usually I do happy hours on Friday with BJ Nix on Twitter. So I might hop off this and do that. But yeah, there you go. Appreciate you having me on, man. It's nice to meet you last week and then get on a show with you. So it's cool.
Yeah, definitely. All right, everybody. Peace out and be back and see you next Friday.
Sounds perfect. Thanks, man.